Nom Nom delivers fresh food with whole ingredients backed by veterinarian science. Science tells us that a dog's health starts in the bowl, so improving their diet is one of the best ways to help them live a long and happy life. Nom Nom's food is full of proteins your dog loves and the vitamins and nutrients they need to thrive. All you have to do is order, pour, and serve. Ready to make the switch to fresh? Order Nom Nom today. Go to https://trynom.com/curveball and get 50% off your first order plus free shipping. That's https://trynom.com/curveball. Plus, Nom Nom comes with a money-back guarantee. If your dog's tail isn't wagging within 30 days, Nom Nom will refund your first order. No fillers, no nonsense, just Nom Nom. Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today, I am joined by multi-genre author, mental health and travel blogger, as well as podcaster and award-winning marketing and communication professional, Tyler Witkowski. Tyler is from North Carolina, so we're going to be talking to him about his story and everything that he's up to. So Tyler, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Curtis. I'm excited to be here on Living the Dream with Curveball.
Absolutely. Why don't you start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, I'm a multi-genre author. I've published 4 books and am re-releasing my first novella as a full-blown novel in October of this year to make my 5th book. And then I've got 2 planned for next year. Also been featured in several anthologies, such as Dark and Stormy Night, Happily Ever Never, and We Deserve to Exist. I've written for a bunch of blogs, The Mighty, which is a mental health blog, the Dark and Veil Universe and Rewritten Realms, which were fantasy blogs, and my own website, tylerwitkowski.com, and adventurewithcoffee.com. tylerwitkowski.com, I do a lot of mental health blogging. I talk a little bit about traveling, some about publishing. I interview creatives, have guest posts. So it's a little mix of everything. Adventure with Coffee, that's where I blog my travel adventures. I am actually currently living in an RV. We sold our house in May of 2023. And since then, we've been on the road in an RV. And once 2024 rolls around, we're headed out west from North Carolina. So we're living life on the road, me, my wife, and my 2 dogs. I also have a podcast, Cook the Books podcast. I've hosted several podcasts over the past couple years, but currently the one I'm hosting now is Cook the Books, and that's hosted by me and my best friend and vice president of marketing at Tea with Coffee Media, Kelsey Ann Lovelady. We talk a lot about writing and the publishing industry because one of my businesses, I have 2 businesses. One of them is Tea with Coffee Media, which is a publishing company. It's an indie publishing company. We try to support and lift up voices of the unheard. People who don't have the funds, don't have the followers, whatever it may be that's preventing them from getting published. We're here to take them to that next level. I also have the Witkowski Company, which is a nonprofit digital marketing and communications agency. So we specialize in helping nonprofits with their digital marketing and their communication strategies. So far, we've worked with chambers of commerce, humanitarian efforts, churches, and we're really looking to expand our client list over the next couple months and really grow that.
All right. So you're a multi-genre author. So tell us what genres you write in.
Yeah, so my first book was Not Alone. I published, or it was the novella that I mentioned earlier. I published it in 2019. It was a young adult, or a new adult actually, novella based on a young man who was suffering mental health issues. He The story's been described as a thriller at times because there is some psychosis that happens to the main character throughout there, and he sees his demons personified. So it's kind of like a horror thriller mix, but I just classify it as new adult because I think anybody who's going through any kind of mental illness should read it and could read it, because it's a very powerful message. I've also written a poetry collection, Coffee, Alcohol, and Heartbreak. That was written between 2012 and 2016. Those were my probably darkest battles with mental illness. I was actually undiagnosed in that point, and well, misdiagnosed. I was diagnosed cyclothymic, but turns out there was bipolar, PTSD, borderline personality disorder, and anxiety on top of that. So going through that unmedicated, not knowing what to do, I turned to poetry to as an outlet to release my emotions and to really capture the essence of those feelings that I had. So with Coffee, Alcohol, and Heartbreak, I eventually published that in 2020, um, and then moved on to writing romance with Sunflower Kisses Book One, The Seeds of Love. And that centers around a mentally ill young man who falls in love with a young woman, and it follows their journey. It's actually the first of a five book series that I'm working on. Hopefully, the next book should be coming out in the next couple years. Uh, so we'll see. And then my recent one was Enamored Echoes Book One, Potent, which is a fantasy retelling of A Midsummer Night's Dream featuring Oberon and Titania. That one was fun. I actually co-wrote that with Kelsey Ann Lovelady, my friend that I mentioned earlier, and we had a blast writing that together. We actually did something really unique with this one. We used the Fae Fair pronoun to describe one of the characters, as a way to incorporate non-binary pronouns into our work. We also, like I mentioned, Not Alone went through a rewrite, and it will be re-released this year, in October of 2023. So we're really excited about that. I'm actually doing a big books pre-launch book signing at a tattoo shop, in conjunction with Mental Health Tattoos. My next book, I've got two more coming out in 2024 planned. The Principles is a historical women's fiction. It's based on my grandmother, who was the first female principal in a very rural community in the late 80s. So this kind of details the journey of not necessarily her journey, but the journey of what it would have been like for a going into a position of power like that in that time period. So the next one is Enamored Echoes Book Two, and that is Time and Tide. That is actually based on the legend of Blackbeard the Pirate. So it is a historical fantasy or historical fiction, I guess you could say. I've also, like I mentioned, with Dark and Stormy Night, a Creative James Media anthology, I wrote A Deal with the Devil, which was a horror story. I also wrote Happily or Breaking Point and Creative James Media's Happily Ever Never anthology. That one was kind of a romance, but a broken romance type of story. I also wrote Eroke for Annuus Horribilis, a Bag of Bones press anthology. That was also a horror. And then Sleep Tight in the We Deserve to Exist anthology by Inkton Gray is also a fantasy. So fantasy's been kind of my go-to for short stories, and then for full-length books, I've gone a bunch of different directions and tried a bunch of different things to see what works, what I enjoy, and all I know is I love writing, and that's what I'm going to keep doing.
Okay, well, I know you're traveling all over the place. So what's the best trip you've taken and why?
We love going to Mount Airy, North Carolina. It is one of our favorite places to go. It's a very small town in the mountains of North Carolina. It's actually, if anybody's ever seen the Andy Griffith Show, Mayberry is Mount Airy. That's what where it was filmed. And we have family that lives up there, so we love going up there to see them. My wife's sisters are up there, and our nieces and nephew, and now my wife's dad is up there. So we just love going up there to see everybody. But it's such a small town feel, and that's kind of what got us to travel in the first place. Was we well, I grew up in a very small rural town called Leland, North Carolina, which is now blown up and is one of the fastest growing cities in the United States. So what we wanted to do was chase down that small town life where we could pick back up and find that community. And that's kind of what we're on the hunt for, is looking for that small town vibe. And that's one reason we really like Mayberry, is because everybody there is so friendly. If you're there for a couple weeks, they start to know you by name, they wave at you. They're just so polite, and the locals there are great. We actually were there a couple of months ago, and we needed to get our RV detailed because we had taken it down to the beach. So we needed to get it detailed to get all the salt off, and we had went with a larger company, and turns out they never showed up. So we had to redo all of our stuff because we were leaving in 2 days and needed to get it washed before then, and found this place called Stone's Mobile Detailing, and they came out, and half the price of what the other company was going to charge us, did the same thing and even better job than I could have imagined. So that's just the kind of thing that you find in these small towns, is these hardworking individuals, these hardworking families, just people who are trying to make a living and not rip you off, but help you out.
Absolutely. So tell us, did you always want to be an author and marketing and communication specialist and travel blogger and all that good stuff?
No, I've been writing for my entire life. My grandmother, who I mentioned earlier, she was my elementary school principal as well as a high school principal and teacher. And she instilled in me at this very young age a love for writing, because I used to go early in the mornings to school with her while she, was getting everything ready, because the principal typically the first one there, and she would bring me with her. And back then we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have tablets, we didn't have handheld video games. So all I had was pen and paper, and my grandmother always encouraged me to write, and she would always read my stories. I used to leave her little comics and little short stories on her desk whenever it was time for me to go to class, and she always loved it, and she inspired me to keep writing and do that. And I loved writing from such a young age, but as I went on through school, I started to get very burnt out on writing, just because of the academic writing. I didn't have time to do the creative writing like I wanted to. So I eventually got burnt out of writing. And then going through college, and, I kind of fell back into writing, the authorship, whenever I moved back in with my grandmother for a couple months while my house was being built. And she asked me one day, she says, "Hey, are you writing still?" And I told her, I was like, honestly, no, but something about her asking me sparked that desire to write again. And the idea came to me, and I started writing. And whenever I did, it flowed naturally, and I loved it. Marketing and communications, I've wanted to do that since my junior year in high school. Really didn't know what I wanted to do throughout college or throughout my early high school days. Didn't know what college I wanted to go to, any of that. And I actually got an invitation to join this organization called DECA. And it's a business organization, and they hold big business competitions for marketing, finance, operations, project management, all that good stuff. And I just fell in love with marketing. The faculty advisor for the club was a marketing teacher and was a marketer by trade, and he and I became really really, really good friends. He was a very close mentor for me and inspired me to go on that track for marketing. And once I got in there, I loved marketing and communications. I mean, I've won several awards for my work, including the North Carolina Association of Government Information Officers, Ernie Seneca Award for Excellence in Public Service. Um, I've really tried my best and I love it because marketing, everybody thinks that marketing is this just big magic trick that you pull a rabbit out of the hat, and that's not the case. Marketing is more like a science experiment. You come up with hypothesis, you test your hypothesis, and you see what works, what doesn't work, and then you go back and you adjust. You have a control to test things against. I mean, there's just so much about marketing that I could talk about marketing all day. Blogging, again, I mean, that goes back to my writing. I didn't even really start blogging until I started my first website, teabutwithcoffee.com, back in 2021. And that's whenever I first started blogging. That website eventually evolved into tylerwitkowski.com. And I started blogging about more things than just mental health. I started blogging about marketing and writing and the publishing industry. And then whenever we made this decision to buy an RV and sell our house, we started the Adventure with Coffee travel blog, my wife and I, and we just wanted something that both of us could do together and, maybe make a little bit of money off of it, but ultimately we just wanted to have fun and have something that both of us were doing that we enjoyed. And with the travel blog, we get to go to breweries and coffee shops and all these different places across the United States, and it's just so much fun because I get to do it with my best friend.
Most definitely. So tell us, if you could recommend three books to my audience, what would those books be?
Okay, I'm gonna say if you haven't read To Kill a Mockingbird, you've got to read it. That is my all-time favorite book. um, I absolutely, Harper Lee was an amazing, talented writer. So that's definitely one that's a classic that you have to read. Some new books that Tea with Coffee Media has actually put out. One, our number one seller last month was Madame Eldridge's Wayward Home for Unruly Boys by Benjamin Ryan. It's a really good book. It's a story about these young boys who are sent to a behavioral program, and the mistress, Madame Eldridge, is very eccentric. She's very out there, wears these crazy outfits, and with each turn in the book, there's something else for you to learn. You could go back and read this book three or four times and still not pick up on all the little clues that Benjamin Ryan has left. It's it's an amazing, very, very good book. Our top seller this month has been Pillars of Cloud, The Salt of Angels, Book One by Connor Irving. That one is it's about a celestial court, and with all different mythology figures from out history, from Christianity, Greek mythology, just so many different Norse mythology. The Connor Irving, who is the author, also has a YouTube channel and TikTok and Twitter account, where he goes by the Mythology Manifest, and he's been doing this. I've known Connor for about 5 years now, and he's been doing this for as long as I've known him. And basically what he does is he talks about myths and history, and he's big into the classics. So he does a really good job. He did a lot of research in this book, and people are loving it because it's just so action packed and detailed, and the storyline is so driven. It's a powerful book. So those are my three.
Well, what advice would you give to all of the up and coming writers out there?
My biggest advice to up and coming writers is just don't give up, because that's one of the hardest things, is to get your feet off the ground. Get your feet wet first. You don't have to dive in right away. Start writing a blog or short stories or something like that. You're not going to make a living off of it overnight. And to me, you shouldn't want to make a living off your writing. You should want to make a difference off of your writing. And that's something I've always inspired to do, because for me, if I'm making a difference with my writing, if I'm invoking emotion with my writing, then we are making a difference and we are making our lives, enriching our lives. And that is even better than the money that can come from it. But with that passion and with that dedication that you have from writing with your feelings and your emotions and opening up and delving into yourself, you open up for more to connect with more readers and to hone your skills. So just never give up. Always keep writing and write for you first and foremost.
Tell us about negative feedback that you received, but you were proud of it.
I love this question. So I mentioned my book Potent earlier in the podcast, and we use the Fey Fair pronouns to describe Puck as a non-binary character. We actually use these pronouns because we have an author at Tea with Coffee Media who goes by those pronouns. So we want it to be inclusive of those pronouns and non-binary pronouns in general. So we decided to include it in this book to describe Puck, and we got some hate on it. Some people said that it was too politically driven. Some people thought we were making up a pronoun, and said that it was too much. But at the end of the day, they're not our target audience. And if people are getting mad because we're using this pronoun and we're raising awareness for non-binary pronouns, then we're doing our job. Like I said earlier, it's all about invoking emotion, and anger is an emotion. I want to invoke the inclusivity for people like my author, and if people get angry, that just shows their emotion. And I'm trying to absorb that for the people like my author who may not be understood. And if we can get out there and get more people to say, oh, this book has non binary pronouns, I want to read it, then we're going to raise more awareness for it and make more people feel comfortable with being who they are.
Well, tell us about any current or upcoming projects that you're working on that people need to know about.
Yeah, so I would just say stay tuned to Tea with Coffee Media. We've got a lot of books coming out. We have a book, at least one book a month planned for the next year, through 2024 and going into 2025. Some months have two books, so definitely keep an eye out. Check out our website, sign up for our newsletter. You get early access to cover reveals and blurbs and videos. You can also apply to be a beta reader or ARC reader in the Tea with Coffee Club, which is our exclusive club, and you get free copies of all of our books. And all you have to do is read it, leave a review. For every 3 reviews you leave and send to us, we send you a gift. So if you're interested, if you're a big reader or you have a platform where you get followers, be sure to visit our Tea with Coffee Club. If anybody has a podcast or a blog or a YouTube channel or anything like that, we're also looking for partners, people that we can partner with that will help promote our authors and will help promote their platform. We have a lot of partners right now. You can visit our website, teawithcoffee.media, to see all of our partners. And we really try to support them and lift them up. We engage with them on social media and make sure that we're promoting their stuff and sharing their stuff. Definitely keep an eye out for the Principles. That's probably going to be one of the most impactful books that I ever write, just because it means so much to me writing it about my grandma or for my grandma. This is dedicated to her. She has been such an inspiration in my life that I just want to make this as good as possible for her.
Hey, man, I'm all in, partner with you and helping promote your authors. I love promoting people and promoting the great things to my listeners that people are doing.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear it.
Close us out with some final thoughts. Maybe if that was something I forgot to touch on that you would like to talk about, or just any final thoughts you have for the listeners.
Yeah, I just want to say, anybody struggling with mental health, mental illness right now, don't forget that you're not alone. I know that your brain and those inner demons make you feel like you are alone, despite knowing deep down in your heart that you've got people that love you and care about you. Just try not to forget that. And I know it's hard, but lean on those people. Call out for help. Cry out for help. It's okay to cry. Men, it's okay to have emotions. We are allowed to have emotions just like women are, and we are no different because we are all human beings capable of deep emotional connections. I would say, for anybody out there who feels like they're not getting enough, um, you know, praise, just know that I'm proud of you. I really am. I'm proud of everybody who gets up every single day and continues on. I'm proud of everybody who makes moves to be better for themselves. I am so proud of those people because they're doing it, and they're doing it sometimes without the support of other people because they don't see it. And just know that if you ever need anybody to talk to, you can find me on any social media at Tyler Witkowski. I am on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, TikTok, Lemonade. I think that's it. I could be wrong, but that covers a good portion. Um, and I really want to connect with people and be a friend and be a source of inspiration. So if anybody needs a listening ear or somebody to lean on, please reach out to me. I'm here for you.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Tyler Witkowski. Please be sure to check out his books and everything that he's up to. Hit up that website, go sign up for that newsletter. Follow, rate, review, share this episode to as many people as possible so we can keep bringing you this great content and the great guests. If you have any guests or suggestion topics, cjackson102 at cox.net is the place to send them. As always, thank you for listening. And Tyler, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Curtis.
For more information on the Living the Dream podcast, visit www.djcurveball.com. Until next time, stay focused on living the dream.